Hello everyone and welcome to another Pyro Gaming video. With a new season, that means we have new exotics that are good, new subclass builds that are good, things that weren't good last season might be good now, and vice versa. So I like to make videos each season, each time we have some big sandbox updates, and just kind of update you guys on what is becoming meta. So I'm going to start with the Titan, and if you're going to start with a Titan, you have to start with Sentinel, and you got to start with Ward of Dawn. Ward of Dawn now grants Weapons of Light, which gives you a 35% damage buff, and that is currently the highest damage buff obtainable in the game. Every other damage buff is only 30%. Ward of Dawn is 35. It is the highest. Now, let's talk about exotics to pair with Ward of Dawn. Well, first of all, in your artifact, if you have Oppressive Darkness, causing damage with a Void Grenade adds a weaken effect to enemies, then you have the highest possible bonus damage that you can have. You have 30% from this, 35% from this, so you're doing a total of 65% more damage than you would without either of those. And that is, in this season, the absolute highest that you can get. They no longer stack. It only takes one buff, one debuff, and it picks the highest ones, and those two are the highest ones. So what you can do is you can pop on something like Helm of St. 14. Its perk, if I can remember where it is, Starless Night. Enemies that enter Ward of Dawn are blinded, and you also get an overshield. So with this build right here, with this subclass, this grenade, and this helmet right here, you have a bubble that buffs enemies, you have a grenade that debuffs enemies, and you have a helmet that blinds enemies and gives you an overshield. This is probably the strongest Titan build currently in the game for PvE. Forgot to mention that we will be talking about PvE in this video. If enough people want it, I'll do a PvP video later. But right now we are looking at PvE. But yeah, this is pretty much the strongest Titan build in the game. This is where it's at, man. Another alternative to Helm of St. 14 is going to be Armamentarium. Armamentarium gives you 2 grenades. When you're using Oppressive Darkness, obviously having 2 debuffs for a boss is going to be better than having only 1 debuff for a boss. So for something like a raid, if you have 2 Titans running Ward of Dawn, you can have both of your Titans running Armamentarium, and that is 4 debuffs. That is 20 seconds that you can have a 30% debuff on a boss per damage phase. So that covers most damage phases for most raid bosses. It's a really, really good build. Alternatively, if you, for whatever reason, don't want to run Ward of Dawn, maybe you already have 2 people on Ward of Dawn, and you want to be the ad clear guy. For ad clear, I would definitely recommend Code of the Commander, and if that is your bag, that is your jam, Doomfang Pauldron is probably the best exotic to pair with Code of the Commander when it comes to specifically ad clearing. Whenever you pair these, you have a super that lasts a very, very long time. Alternatively, Ursa Furiosa is not bad either, but this is only going to be for situations where you're going to be blocking with your banner shield. Otherwise, it's completely useless. If you're not blocking with your banner shield, I would definitely recommend Doomfang. But yeah, as far as bottom tree, man, it's outplayed, honestly. It's not terrible. You could do something like Shield Bash with Peregrine Greaves, but, you know, honestly, man, like, these two are where it's at. This one's for boss damage, this one's for ad clear. And that is pretty much all I have to say about that. For Oppressive Darkness, I do prefer magnetic grenades, just because it's easier to get it to attach to a boss. It kind of has a little bit of a aim assist to it, as opposed to Void Wall and Suppressor, where you just need to get it underneath the boss, basically. I do like magnetic. I have been running Towering Barricade, since Rally Barricade doesn't instant reload anymore. But other than that, that is my Sentinel builds. So moving on to Sunbreaker. Sunbreaker, top tree, you have Hammer Strike. Hammer Strike is still really good. It applies a 30% damage debuff whenever you hit an enemy, and they increase the duration of this debuff to 10 seconds. That's pretty big. That's the equivalent of 2 of the Oppressive Darkness grenades back to back. So if you are running Sunbreaker, which is still a very good class, if you're doing it for ad clear, I would recommend Syntheseps. Being surrounded buffs damage. The more damage you do, the more enemies you're going to kill. If you are doing it for the grenade and for the Hammer Strike, Hollowfire Heart is probably the best all-around exotic for this subclass. Well, for that specific tree, because you get it back so fast. And you could even do something like Heart of Inmost Light, keep wanting to call it Helm of Inmost Light like Destiny 1. But yeah, you use one ability, so say for example you get a kill with a grenade, then you go in with Hammer Strike, you do a little bit more damage with Hammer Strike. It's pretty fun to play around with. Phoenix Cradle is going to be good for the bottom tree down here. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Peregrine Greaves is going to pair really well with the Hammer Strike build as well. There's currently a there's currently a strategy in the game where if you go in for a Hammer Strike and you shoot your shotgun with 1-2 punch into a boss, I don't have one on me right now, but if you shoot your shotgun into a boss right before you Hammer Strike, you do insane amounts of damage with Peregrine Greaves. It is a probably borderline broken build right now. I just noticed, look at my recovery on these things. Holy shit. Oh, it's because it's year 1. I haven't circled it out yet. But yeah, that's pretty much that. I was talking about Phoenix Cradle a second ago for bottom tree. When it comes to bottom tree, you want to build around the sunspots. Now, the only thing that I don't like about this subclass in particular is that you have to stand still. It's, I guess, pretty good for something like, you know, raid boss damage. Like something like Argos, this was really good because you could just stand in your sunspot and chuck your hammers, you know, across the way into the boss. But nowadays, it's, I don't know. I'm not personally a fan of it. I mean, I'm sure if you get used to it, you can have a lot of success with this subclass. But for me personally, it's not for me. For middle tree, man, there's that one exotic. Let's see, I can't remember the name of it. Let me look. There's that one exotic that buffs melee damage, and it is pretty good for that. Yeah, melee kills increase melee damage. So if you run Worm God Caress on middle tree here, and you build it around the throwing hammer specifically, then that could be a pretty fun build if you have something like Brawler active in a Nightfall or in a Strike. But aside from that, this is kind of a novelty class. You know, it's kind of like the bottom tree in Sentinel. Like, it's just outclassed by the other two, and it's just kind of silly. So, you know, that is what it is. So moving on to our Striker Titans, we'll start with top tree up here. We have Seismic Strike, which is basically the shoulder charge. Aftershocks, damaging enemies, recharges your grenades, terminal velocity, and magnitude. This is probably my favorite just because you get the 2 grenades. This is the one that I will use most for PvE, and this one down here is the one that just keeps giving you more super each time you get it. If I'm doing like super ad clear, I will run the bottom one. This one I don't mess with. This is kind of like middle tree Sunbreaker. It's a novelty to me. If I want to act silly, if I'm goofing around in a raid, that's when I'll equip this one. But for this one, we'll start with this. So with Seismic Strike, you want to build around that. Something like Insurmountable Skull Fort is really good. It'll give you health back whenever you get the melee kills. You can also pair it with something like this, you know, grants bonus damage for all arc melee abilities and refunds super energy on finisher final blows. Thundercoil would probably be really good for that build. I haven't personally used it, but I would imagine it's pretty solid. Something like Syntheseps I think would pair really well with any of the Striker builds. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You can do Peregrine Greaves with a shoulder charge with Thunderstrike. This one chains melee damage. These could be really fun. Yeah, that's basically it. I'll use this one as a general purpose if I need grenades, or I will use this one if there's a bunch of ads that I need to clear. And that pretty much does it. I didn't talk much about weapons, but I will tell you this. This right here, the combination of Izanagi's Burden, Recluse, and Wendigo is a very, very solid PvE loadout for just about everything. I've been using this in the new Garden Raid, and it is quite good. Quite good indeed. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. I will make a video for Warlocks and Hunters if you guys are interested, but that's pretty much it for Titans. This is what I've been using in Shadowkeep, and this is what it looks like I will continue to be using. Drop a comment in the box below, let me know which builds you have been enjoying, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. If you enjoyed this one, click like. If you're new to the channel, click subscribe, and if you are already subscribed, I fucking love you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.